family conversations and meaningful interactions. But, for children, I mean, they need it for social development. They need to,
Yes, they
and
do.
I think the benefit
I
of
agree.
working with a lot of these, residents, because I've taken my children to some of my client sites and so forth, but it helps them with language and communication. I mean, I think these are
Yes.
elements that I know it's at the core of our society, but it's being rocked by what has been just become too easy to engage with, that we've lost the historical sense of our ability to communicate with human to human interface. And almost a point where it's awkward for some children. They really have anxiety about talking and looking at people's eyes and not seeing it through a screen or other element, but also the storytelling. I find what I love about the elders and a lot of the residents is that the history, the stories, the fact they were there breathing in the air, smelling the smells of 1928s, 1930s. And when you can hear that and explain it to the child in form of, a way a classroom can't, all of your residents would have those amazing stories. And I think we really need to continue to drive that intergenerational care model and continue to explore that across the sector.
Hey guys,
it also has the benefits.
Sorry, if you're just joining us now, then we have Stacey Baramy, the CEO of Ibis Care, as our special guest for the week. And there's a good chance that you are joining us now, because you know what I just did? I totally forgot to click go live. So I think we've been chatting for 15 minutes.
We've got some great content to share.
Yeah. I don't know if that 15 minutes gets added on once we finish the stream, and it gets added on in the recording. So at the risk of not repeating what we've already said, I think we just continue as is, continue the conversation. Hopefully everyone by now knows Robert, Owen, and myself. But yes, introducing everyone to Stacey Baramy. My sincerest apologies. Kim Davies has been listening in. We've got two people backstage, Kim Davies and Mary. And they'll be jumping on with us in 15 minutes. So raise the roof for what I've just mentioned. So my fault. I'll cop that one. But yes, let's continue the conversation. And since I've still got the floor, I want to. I've been flying around this week. Been in Sydney and Melbourne, catching up with a few people, doing some podcasts. And one of the guests, I did ask him if he had a question for the audience, and it was actually a good question. So I want to ask it here and get everyone's thoughts on that. And the question was that, looking at the baby boomers coming in, the silver tsunami, everyone's got this assumption, and his whole question was around, we need to challenge our assumptions constantly. Otherwise, we're going to be going in the same direction. So are we assuming that the baby boomers are just going to be have these high demands? They're used to a certain lifestyle. They're going to come into aged care wanting this, that, and the other. It's not going to be like the previous generation just being happy with the status quo. Obviously, we are gearing ourselves up to provide a higher level of service, higher standards. But are we just accepting that baby boomers will have a million requests? So yeah, that was. What do you guys think?
That was part of the question. Well, I think it fits into, we were just on that whole intergenerational care models, and coming back to RSL Life Care's, I think it was Lori, the CEO at the time, where they had the kindergartners and aged care, and really lining that back to, I think, what the baby boomers have, because I feel for any older adult, there's the purpose of joy, but also reflection to, what you expect that you interacted with, because that's your frame of reference as to how you engage with your grandparents or your elders at the time. And I think the world's moving so fast, and I could see even with my, my parents and my wife's parents and how the kids interact with them today, it's very different than I interacted, and certainly different than how the baby boomers probably grew up interacting with their grandparents of that generation. And I think we have to be mindful of that, but at the core of it, it's all about, the purpose and joy. Like the grandparents love spending their time with the young children. Love it.
Yes.
And certainly, I know, we talked a little bit about what benefits it has for the children in today's society. But I think going back to that cohort of people, I think it's still going to come down to those. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You start with that, basic level of mental stimulation, emotional well-being, physical benefits, and I think also, the children in facilities brings a lot of that, to stimulate their overall mental health, and there's positives there. So like that would be a great initiative to continue. And I think, to ABC and Lori and the team at the RSL Life Care who, took a punt. I mean, there's not too many providers that go out and say, "Oh, do you want to broadcast a national TV show from your facility with these residents?" I mean, we're pretty risk adverse in a lot of settings, but it did highlight some beautiful things, and I think something that really the camera can only expose. You read it in the study, you read in news. It doesn't really carry the same weight when you can watch one of the gentlemen who's been dealing with depression and loneliness, and just builds this amazing bond with a young kid who's really at the other part of life struggling with something similar. And I think those are the stories that I just, oh man, they just make your heart warm. And I mean, if we got more of those every night on the news, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. More good
Yeah.
news, more quality.
Definitely.
Stacey, you were sharing about how you're embracing intergenerational care. I'm mindful that we've gone live now, so it'd be great to hear that again for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Just integrating the younger generation into aged care, particularly not just aged care, but healthcare in general. So I was just talking about before how we connect not just with the high school kids, primary school kids, and the childcare services that come into residential aged care to for that intergenerational connection with our residents. But we also are out there as well promoting particularly the TAFE students, so having a lot of TAFE students in our clinical care as clinical placements. So
Yes.
And high school kids as well that we do. So just getting them exposure to healthcare. Because as I highlighted before, we will be 35,000 plus short in aged care workers or healthcare workers in the near future. As you were touching on with even the baby boomers coming on now, eventually, they are coming on a bit later than what we would normally expect, probably around about 75 plus age group. And most of them would be requiring, wanting to stay at their own home and being cared for at the home, particularly with around the home care packages. That's we were speaking about, not so much in this podcast, but having forecasts that residential aged care would not be the normal stream of services that people would come into, particularly the age with the baby boomers. That we're looking at things like gourmet food, the wellness programs, a lot of social outings, a lot of interactions, more technology as well into that space that you spoke about, Robert, and having things at the tip of their hands, like what we're used to as well. And so definitely the technology side of it as well. And they're more health conscious and more aware of what's happening. And a lot of them would be actually working until they are a bit later in life as well, before even thinking about residential aged care. So those are the group of people we're thinking about when we actually look at services in care in the future.
I love that. So you're really prioritizing how do we develop a framework that delivers quality of life. So, they move from a community, they're used to having friends, they're used to having engagement, and then they come into a different environment. How do you give them a semblance of all of the joy that comes from, well, not a semblance. How do you recreate and stimulate that joy that they're used to, that you get in as being a part of a community? You were talking about that as well, about a village. I mean, we hear the saying a village to raise a child, but everyone needs a village. We all go through relationship.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's about the person as well. You might have heard that with the aged care reform, and always accreditation, the strengthening aged care standards now particularly focus on the person. like the individual, person
Yes.
being the center of all care. So I think it goes back to if you focus on that, then you will be able to cater for what the individual want, because what you want might not be the same as what I want in an aged care. And it's also depends on the environment that you've grown up in and the environment that you come from. So we try as much as possible when they come into care that we provide them as much as possible. It's quite similar environment, so they still have that social network when they come through. So,
Hey, let's Stacey, before we, I'm going to add on some of our people in the wild. Kim Davies is coming on soon.
People in
before
the
we do
world,
that,
I love that.
You had a question for me when we had
Yes.
the podcast yesterday, Stacey. And would you mind asking that I would love to hear Robert's answer on that, because it's right in his wheelhouse. And that's why I made the introduction to you guys as well. But before we do, I do want to thank Mark Ryu and Natasha Egan and the Australian Aging Agenda for partnering with
Mark.
us.
Thanks, Tash.
Thanks, AAA.
thank you.
And they've offered the double passes worth $2,000 to the 2026 Positive Aging Summit, and where everyone will gather to celebrate and drive reablement in aged care. So thank you so much to them. Stacey, yes, let's. I did like that question, and I think it's something Robert can really shed light on.
Yeah, definitely. So my question was more around the aged care technology space. So with this age of AI, so how do we then, as aged care providers, get together and provide the ongoing demands of technology, but more of a cost-effective way? Sort of, getting people together, because I'm sure every provider, every aged care organisation is looking at, how do we provide aged care clients with or you call them residents, so you know what I mean, clients, residents, the best possible aged care recipients, the best possible technology and devices in aged care, so that they can still have that lifestyle that they choose, but more the cost-effective way, because technology seems like everyone's developing them, but it's so expensive to implement, particularly in residential aged care. So looking at technology, how to develop that, but in a most cost-effective way, and how do we share that amongst all the aged care providers, particularly the smaller providers, so that we can still provide the same or similar services, still tap into technology, but it doesn't, break the budget, so to speak.
No, I get it, and it's actually what's we've been working on for years. But no, it's a great question. It's actually something that I know even government has taken different approaches, but to be, I guess there's probably about 3 different strategies or outcomes that needs to happen, and some of it's already happening. But like first of all, really start with the clear problems that the sector has, and right now it's a lot of manual tasks and activities that we can just do better. I mean, with technology, it's been around for even decades. I mean, I was at IBM when we had AI then, but it was more behind mainframes and big computers, and not everyone was able to touch it or interact with it. So it was more of like a statistical regression analysis that you could look at some stats and go, oh, that's a higher probability of this outcome leading to something happening. But certainly with aged care, the pain points we have, a lot of it is right now compliance reporting, the paperwork, the just general fatigue, because a lot of the systems out there, the data is not working for us. It's actually, it's out there, but we have to then pull it together and do a lot of this manually. And I think that also is because we started as a cottage industry, and therefore a lot of the systems we have today, were built by quality nurses that teamed up with an engineer, and then next thing you know, 30 years goes by, and you've got a major system. But yet, with that history there, it's important to understand. But we can now start to, this is the next point, we need to start to use the data we already have in better ways. And that's where Mirus and what we've always focused on is more than a tech provider, we actually see ourselves as more enablers of data and breaking silos down, creating synergies. And then with AI, AI works well with data. The more data you can feed it, it can see things that humans would have to really, go through. So using the data and making that data work around those care problems are certainly the areas to start with, because those, no matter what size a business you have, when you're talking about the labor rates and the shortage and the cost of agency and all the things that I know you're looking at in your budgets and your rosters and you hold your breath when payroll runs and go, did we land it somewhere in between there, or how, where's that sweet spot? But certainly starting with those aspects, and the return on those investments can really move the needle. But the third component is, we aren't unique snowflakes to the sense of, I think some groups feel they are. I mean, we all operate within a very heavily regulated system, and we all have to do the required QFR reporting and all these elements, and we may have different systems and ways of doing it, but my background was also at shared services and financial effectiveness, and so this is a complete environment where these type of managed services, which the government's really put into motion by categorizing activities for us as direct care and non-direct care, is really another starting point to get the industry thinking that way. But the benefit of having the regulation on us is that a lot of these requirements and outputs are all the same, no matter what size or scale of organization. And where that's starting to take shape with some of these collaboratives of groups coming through, and this would be the last point, is to align with those collaboratives. So, for instance, Witten Group has a collaborative healthcare initiative, and Chris is really leading that. But it's a multi-sector partnership, focusing on improving the health and aged care of old Australians. And I know there's more of a focus in the rural and regional communities, but a lot of the partners already in there. I mean, you've got Bupa to Uniting Care to Baptist Care to IRT and so forth, and Witten really pulling together the core of it. But I think it's a testament to also some of the pioneers out there, in aged care, who have really come from different industries and are now, bringing that experience. And I did work with Chris when he was one of the accountants running the outsourced services for Moran Group, because that's where I started my career, is putting together, Opal, the domain and principal, and so running the finance stream. And we were setting up a shared service function for Opal back in 2008, and that's where I first met Chris. And I think those experiences and seeing how that can change, and that thinking is then brought in, we can align with it to take the risk out for groups that may not have the scale to really initiate it, but then once it's moving, and that's what I love about these collaboratives, it gets momentum, and then that momentum starts to build. It becomes that like flywheel effect, and then things are already moving fast enough, but I think everyone's drinking from fire hoses out there. But the way technology is moving is that we can pretty much do whatever we we'll need to do in the next 5 years with this tech. It's more about ensuring we have the right ethical controls around it, commercial controls, and I think those collaboratives are really important for us as an industry to do. And I love the fact it's coming from the provider, and we're not waiting for government, because we've I'm part of ones with government for the DT partners and a bunch of vendors working with government, but it feels like we're really giving a part of the the problem from the vendor land, but we continue to I don't know, I continue to feel there's other ways we can do this, and I'm really loving what's already in place. So that's what I would continue to do. And then of course there's going to be individuals like like Miris and others out there that have long history, and that I can give or introduce you into these areas, because there's some fascinating work already happening, and I think we just need to continue to showcase that, so that everyone that is now starting to think about this can then engage in a way that is going to work for where their organization's at, where they're at with their even their viability, because it's hard to think this way if you're just worried about making payroll, or whether or not the RAD balance is going to be enough for to get through a winter, or all of those items. That just stifles any of the strategic thinking. So it depends also where those organizations are too in their journey.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you. I've got another question. So what do you think will happen if the, say, provider doesn't tap on into technology? And sort of, what do you think will happen to those type of organisations? Is like quite very slow to take on this new age of technology.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fascinating quotes out there that really encompass that statement. One that I've heard, I think it came from maybe the CEO of Microsoft, was about it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's the person who's utilizing AI, and I think that's one aspect that I encourage a lot of the the staff that are trying to get their head around it, but then thinking, everyone seems to jump right into their the role and whether or not their job security is there, and I think that's not that's not really the debate. The debate is really more about, we need to, as even a country, and this has been highlighted in a lot of the finance and sort of productivity reports, but productivity is certainly something that even the RBA and others we look at regularly, and we are one of the I think lower outputs, and every country wants to be higher, but this tool can really help augment and scale us, and especially in Australia, we're very blessed to have this, this country with no borders and just, resource rich and a lot of land. And but unfortunately, we have the tyranny of distance, and we just don't have enough individual people to really fulfill every role. So we really need to then leverage this AI in this way. So I wouldn't be scared of it. I would really look to embrace it, and don't think of it as it's something that's going to remove your relevance to an organization. I think it's more about how we put it into practice and augment tasks and augment a lot of the manual, we call it non-value and value add work activities. I think every one of you would look at probably 20, 30, 40% of your day and look at some of the non-value activities. You go, oh, I'm not working with a resident, I'm not interacting with a family, I'm not really moving the needle here and there, I'm actually just doing admin stuff. And that's really where we can start. But I think every organization needs to embrace it. They don't need an AI strategy. AI just needs to be part of your strategy. So don't overthink the whole process. It's just an enablement layer. And I think that's another component that a lot of people overthink it. And they try to then say, well, we need a strategy for AI, and what direction is it going to take us? Well, your direction's set. You're heading down that path. You just want to do it more efficiently, more effectively, and do it with a lot less burnout, and help the staff to really be present and be the best human than they can in human form to the residents and people around the business that are still going to continue to be the heart and soul of every one of these brands out there that are doing these amazing things for aging Australians.
You've definitely got Rob in his passion zone right there. Let's Stacey.
We've got a direct line to Rob, and that's what I love about this platform. Anyone has a direct line.
I know. I love it. Thank you.
Well,
Now,
I mean, some of the things. Yeah.
For Kim Davies, she is
Yes.
in the house.
Hi,
We got
Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Kim, can you introduce yourself and lead us down another rabbit hole?
Yeah, let's go.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
loud and clear.
can.
Yeah, terrific. So I'm Kim Davis. I'm the Corporate Services Manager for Everglow Community Care. We're a Townsville-based home care organisation, so we don't have any residential.
Shout out to Townsville.
Just up the road, isn't it, Townsville?
Yeah.
Shout out
Pretty
to
good weather here
Townsville.
at the moment. Yeah. So we've got about 1,300 clients across CHSP and home care packages.
Wow.
And, 100 staff, but we're not one of the big organisations, but we're certainly not small anymore. So there's an exec team of 4, and we're navigating our way through the change, and looking at our structure and future strategy and all of that. So we're right in the thick of things, and getting assistance where we can. So just what we're talking about, AI, embedding AI into our practices will come eventually, but we've got some bigger fish to fry at the moment. I guess just as I was listening to you before, and you were touching on wellness and reablement, and bringing youth into the sector and all of that. And we really are on the precipice of major change at the moment, and it is being brought about by Support at Home. The government is forcing us to change. We really don't have any choice, and unless we do that paradigm shift of doing 4, which is what most most of us are used to doing that. We're used to looking after people, and we've got to change that mindset. And I'm thinking, you think about terminology, and we call it aged care. Maybe we should be reframing it as aging support.
Ooh,
Okay.
Really attracting
Yep.
the baby boomers who are into wellness and fitness, and really tailoring our supports into that aging well mindset.
Yeah.
And if you do that, and I think
Love it.
we are seeing
Yeah.
less DA, particularly as self-funded retirees become higher than your pensioners. So it's not going to make financial sense for them to receive DA from an organisation like ours. They're going to go private because it's going to be cheaper. So we are looking more towards those restorative services, the clinical services and things like that. That is a real opportunity to be remarketing ourselves and looking at attracting a younger worker.
That's exciting. What do you think of then about what LaStacey's doing in terms of her partnership with New South Wales TAFE?
I think it's excellent. And we also hit up the high schools and things, and our HR officer and training officer, they go around and talk to the high school students. We've had mixed success with some work experience students, but working in regional centres, you've got to think outside the box, and certainly TAFE is one of ours, but also the local RTOs. We've got STEPS up here, and we've got a very good working relationship with them for them to send us their good Cert 3 students, and we can do placements, things like that. So but it's all well and good getting on the ground and talking to people, but as a sector, unless we change what the perception of aged care or aging support is, people aren't going to be interested. If they think it's all mopping floors and wiping bums, they're not going to be
not
interested.
so appealing. Yeah, no, I hear
you. You think about exercise physiology, and that sounds, I know young people who have gone down that path, and and they end up working in aged care. But if you had said to them when they were leaving school, "Oh, do you want to work in aged care?" and it would have been no way.
Yeah.
So,
Let me think about that for a split second.
No, it's so important. It is so important, because I think that's a role I feel government can play a bigger, bigger role in. With we look at some of the health campaigns, advertisements they've done over the years, and everything from in the 80s with the AIDS epidemic, and there's one of a big bowling ball rolling down by. I mean, it was really like it just got you and thinking, but it can change the narrative. It can change that, and that's the importance of what advertising and marketing can do. And I think if government can also help market this sector in a different way, and we didn't have the I think wait before George Clooney is going to be in the facilities, but like we I think we can rely on government then to like continue some of the campaign and some of the budget they have to to really change that narrative and reframe that picture that for whatever reason it just can't be shaken, and it's now like a bit of a stigma.
Yeah.
Can we sort of jump in with this then, because you said out of the box thinking in regional? You're the casting director, the commercial director, and you want to reframe this industry to make it exciting. What would be your directions around how we communicate that message?
I'm the corporate services manager. I'm not the marketing manager.
But I love your thinking about lifestyle, focus. That people are living longer. They want to have a full life. Yeah. You're not going to any form of supported care or aging support or whatever that dynamic is. We're going to help you live your best life. So we're going to surround you with people that you're going to enjoy, because you've been ripped out of your world that you knew and loved, but we're going to do our best to try and recreate a new world. What do you think is some of the best things we can do there to achieve that?
I think it probably starts with providers changing their mindset as well. At the moment, as I said initially, I think we're still very much stuck in the way we've always provided care. And, sometimes I think we're a bit paternal with our clients, and we don't let them do enough for themselves, and it comes from a very good place. So I think we need to change our mindset, and also just in terms of this new program, if you're looking at change, you've got to get on top of the negative things, and you've got to get the positive messages out. And I don't think there's enough of that. I think there's too much talk on the cost and the client contributions and the lack of flexibility and all of the other things that we can see are flaws in the program. But I think we've got to maybe start moving beyond that and going, okay, well, how is this going to work? And how we do have to look strategically at it. And I think if there's a lot of providers doing it, and if we're having a lot of those conversations in the sector, that's how we lead each other. There's so much sector conversation going on at the moment. Let's steer it in a positive direction of, well, what do we want?
Yeah, Kim, what you said about changing the mindset, and that is 100% the first step. Our household, we raise our kids in the Montessori principles, and that's all about enabling them to do things for themselves. And while we've adopted those principles and we love it, teaching them how to be little adults, put on your own shoes, tie your own shoelace, make your own breakfast. At the same time, we've got lives to lead. So as much as our mindset has changed logistically, we have to be somewhere at a certain time. And what we really should be doing is, if it takes them 30 minutes to put on their shoes, we sit down, we guide them through it. That's what we should be doing. Investing that time in that moment so things get easier in the future. But it's so hard. So looking at it from a provider standpoint, it is hard balancing that, even if they do get that mindset and say, yes, these are the principles we want to go down, the re-ablement and doing with, not doing for. But when you've got a shift and you've got a million things to do and other residents to see, that can be a big challenge as well. So I don't fault them for that. It's hard to balance.
I mean, it's Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of work being done, and there's tools around that can help, both care partners and clients start to understand the preventing frailty. So have you heard of the life curve model?
No.
So,
please enlighten us.
Life curve is amazing, and if you just Google it, it'll bring up, and it's got training packages and everything. But basically, it's got you've got your axis, and you've got your activities of daily living, so your functions down the side, and then down the bottom you've got years. So everyone is going to reach the end of their years when they reach the end of their years, and there's nothing we can do about that. To a certain extent, but it's how you get to those years, whether you are traveling along at a high level of function and then you gradually drop off, or whether you drop off and live out your life with less function, and that's what we're talking about. If we can, I think the first ADL is like being able to cut your own toenails, and it goes all the way down through different functions and gets down to being able to shower yourself. So if we can keep people being able to cut their own toenails, well, you think about it's dexterity, it's flexibility, it's balance, and all of that sort of stuff. So if you can retain that, they're going to age better until they get to that end point, whenever that may be.
Absolutely.
So I like what you were saying there, because you remind me of a quote. It's not the amount of years in your life, it's the life in your
Yeah.
years, and,
Yeah.
and I really heard that. I just want to bring Stacey back in for a moment, because we had a situation where we were recording a live show, but it didn't go live. So small challenge with that when we advertise as live. But Stacey, we started the interview around the fact that you came from a hospital environment, and that leads to some learnings that you've sort of brought into aged care.
Yes.
And then I also want to touch on some of your thoughts around the workforce, and you spoke about some things there. So if we could give you that opportunity to go back to where we started the show for a moment, what really helped you in terms of having that lens of a hospital environment and bringing that into aged care?
Yeah, so I'll quickly go back and touch base on that
Thank
again.
you.
I started off as a registered nurse in hospital and in emergency and intensive care department. And then from then on, I went into clinical nurse consultants in various roles, including infection control and research and work health and safety, quality, and then executive leadership roles into management, and ultimately then director of nursing at a private hospital. I moved into aged care. It was by sort of lifestyle choice, as well as that time, young kids, etc., and there was a demand in aged care. So I moved into the aged care sector, started off in a senior management role. And at that point, I thought to myself, gosh, what would I do, and how do I make this work? But I think I'm thankful for the skills that I've learned through the years at hospital, being 15 years at hospital before I actually moved into residential aged care. Those skills actually helped me so much that I was able to then transfer those skills onto my staff as well that I work with. And in return, they taught me how to manage aged care clients, so it was a two-way that knowledge sharing partnership. So I think even for now, as I was listening to what Kim is saying in terms of getting the younger people into aged care, and and also them getting a shock that they're there wiping bums and all sorts of stuff as well. And
Great
I think
start.
and I think to keep people in, particularly the young ones, to aged care, it's not about just getting them in as well. And I agree with Kim. We have all these great ideas to get people in. We've got clinical placements, we've got connecting to the intergeneration, connecting young ones into aged care.
Yes,
but I think it's about keeping them as well.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
keeping them is the most difficult, because once they get in, they get either lack of education, ongoing education. They lose their skills because they don't get upskill. There's not enough educators in aged care. There's not enough resources, not enough funding that goes into providing support for aged care workers to stay in aged care, because all the support that we get from government is you might have heard care minutes, and you get those care minutes to provide care to the residents, but not care minutes for other things, like other additional things that we don't see, like, for example, catering and cleaning and laundry, and education for the staff to stay on the aged care and support the younger ones to stay on. And why would they stay if they get to be on the banding order list? They get to get in trouble if they make mistakes. So I think there should be more support in that side of things for people to say, it's okay, we will help you and we will help you stay on. And this is why we lose a lot of people when they're actually already starting into the stage of the career. So what do you think, Kim?
Look, that's really, really good. We lose a lot of people because we have so much domestic, and they say, why did I study to clean houses for 6 hours a day? So, potentially, as I said, if we're seeing domestic drop off into the future, maybe that will change. I thought of your slogan as well. It's making aged care sexy. So
Ooh, there we go. Look out. Let's raise the roof on that one.
That's a good one.
Making aged care sexy.
Well, it's not to be pedantic. It's bring sexy back to age, bringing sexy back to age.
Bringing sexy back. Whoop, whoop. We've got to have some fun. It's Friday afternoon.
yeah,
I really love that. Speaking of fun, we started to talk on this list, Stacey. We talked about the fact that you travelled over to the Philippines just as an example around working skill shortages and so forth, and different cultures that are suited to aged care. Do you want to sort of elaborate on what you saw there? Because we had a good chat about that.
Yeah, aged care in Philippines is not like aged care in Australia. I mean, I will only compare those two because those two are the one I know most about at the moment. And I find that the population there is not as old as in Australia.
Yes.
Australia has probably an older population compared to the Philippines. So there is an area that we can tap into in terms of outsourcing. With being for 30, I touched on this earlier, 35,000 and growing numbers of healthcare workers shortages in Australia, and I'm sure other countries that have aging population would be quoting quite similar numbers. I think having that sort of outsourced partnership with other countries to help, if we're talking about, we tapped on about AI earlier and how AI would not be the solution for caring for people, because people have, as you know, a very emotion type scenario, and AI can do the other tasks, but can never take the human component. And I find that Filipinos, and I haven't been to Nepal. We've got a lot of Nepal workers as well, and I'd love to go there, travel to Nepal and see that country as well. But quoting the Philippines, I mean, they're very caring. They've got a very family-orientated nature about them, and they just seem to fit into caring for older Australians well. When they get into Australia. So I would love to just travel to the other different countries as well eventually to see, how can we help older Australians and how we can network and share resources, not just in our own countries, but abroad as well.
Yeah, love that. And I think it's right along the lines of what you're saying, Kim, about making that support relationship a fun one. And I know culturally the Philippines, I was saying this before, is just they're a fun community. They're carrying their guitars. They're the first ones to the karaoke. They love having people over. It's a full house. It's a full life. So, if we can learn those different cultural kind of things that enrich the lives of the people we're working with, why not? Let's encourage that.
Well, it's interesting, too, because over a third, this is according to Department of Health, of the residents in care were born overseas. So, I mean, that's an important part. But then if we think about some of the organizations probably closer to city centers do have probably a more diverse and multicultural than some of the regionals providers in that sense. But about 20% of older Australians do come also from these non-English speaking backgrounds as well. So that does even add a further complexity. But I think, Stacey, what you're noting there is there's a lot to learn about even the country we're becoming and what we want that country to look like and feel like, and and how, like we were talking earlier about certainties in life are death and tax, and we're all going to go through that process and be on our own life curve model, right? And so I guess part of this now is in this conversation, this reframing, is also for us, for our children and the future side of it. It's not about just what's happening today. But yeah, it's a very good point. I think we should do more of those stage study tours. I think I'm up for one.
Yes, I'll come with you as well.
Let's all go. That sounds like a great
idea. Guys, that's all the time we've got on this week. Thank you so much. Let's raise the roof one more time for Stacey and Kim. Thank you so much for joining us and contributing to the conversation. But yes, cheers, guys.
Now, and we're going to run the intros, I believe, again, because we didn't get to do an intro for Stacey on the live version. Is that right?
I saw
You saw it. But
think-
was it? But was it
think I'll
in
try
your? Yeah. So
I think-
we've
I
got a
think we'll-
live piece. Were you watching the
Yeah,
live
no,
piece?
I saw all of it from the start.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
because I
So,
didn't get to click
that's
on
a
the
relief.
go live button. But I think
Ah.
we'll have to end it there, guys. So
okay.
thank you.
Awesome.
Well, that's